And welcome in IllinoisPrep.com. Playoff team preview number 7. The Metamora Redbirds, downstate powerhouse, and defending 4A football champions. They're in 4A again. They got knocked off by South Elgin, a game that we were at, but South Elgin 8A. And so they're the number 2 seed, one of two seeds in the lower bracket. The 4A is loaded with the traditional powers, not the least of which is Quincy Notre Dame, who is my favorite to win the whole thing, and Metamora would have to meet up with them in the semis. And if Metamora gets to the semis, they're going to be led by quarterback Michael Fay.
Yeah, returning starter from last year's state championship team, leading rusher on the team. And, you're the one telling me about this, but, that's what they pride themselves on. They're like, we're going to run it all the time on you. Even when it's time to pass, we're going to run it on you. So, power running game with the quarterback taking the bull by the horns and leading their team to, hopefully a good season in the playoffs. Yeah,
very similar when we were talking about Mount Carmel and I was saying how important Suchka is to the decision-making. Fay, much the same way. There's going to be the dive play, and he's going to have the option to keep it. And we saw that against South Elgin. South Elgin just had so much more speed than Metamora normally sees on really both sides of the ball. Defensively, Metamora got beat up 49 points by South Elgin because they were passing so much. I think Metamora was shell-shocked because guys were getting behind the safeties, and which is something you're obviously don't let anybody behind you. But no one chucks it around like that in these smaller classes, and so we both think that that's really not going to affect Metamora's path to a potential repeat state title.
Yeah, after seeing that game, you're right. I don't think it'll really affect them. When I saw that game with South Elgin and Metamora, it was just like two different games being played. It was just different, and so it was good though. It was good for Metamora to see that, so they can see how some other teams play, because they might run into that in the playoffs. Being in 4A, maybe not as easily, but it's good for them to see it. It's probably more benefit for South Elgin on that standpoint to see a team that can really run it. But the fact that they lost that game doesn't, I would say, really matter. They went 8-1, and when it comes to 4A, they're definitely one of the teams to look out for.
Yeah, and what I like, and formerly being a downstate guy and seeing some of these teams, if you're a downstater and you look at this playoff bracket, you're like, all, or at least most of the big programs are in there. You got Geneseo, who has been to some state title games. You got Morris. The Redskins are always tough. And Morris playing Bishop McNamara, that's like a semifinal game some years. And then on Metamora's side of the bracket, you got number 1 Pontiac, who's always tough. Bloomington Central Catholic's a 6 seed. They played in some state title games. Rochester's 9-0, the number one seed on the lower half of the lower bracket. And then you have Quincy Notre Dame, who gave Richwoods a run at home in Quincy for the Mid-State 6 title. And their only other loss is a 22-20 loss to Illini West, who is my pick. Is my pick to win 3A. And so I think you could potentially see a Metamora Quincy Notre Dame semifinal that's really the state championship game.
Yeah. Well, I'm sorry, go ahead.
Oh, no, I was done. I mean, I just think it's another one of those. This is why, and I know it'll never happen. This is why I'm pining for a selection committee. Get the NCAA tournament selection committee in here. So going 9-0 doesn't guarantee a number 1 seed.
Yeah, it'll never happen.
I know.
Stop wishing for you. I think there's a chance for a BCS playoff system will happen before that. And that's just the way I think. That's the way I think it works. It's just the IHSA is set in their ways, and you win some, you lose some. So depending on what year it is for you and what happened, it's just kind of a luck thing. And sometimes it sucks because our best games are in the earlier rounds.
Yeah, and the one of the things that I like that we've talked about with other teams, like about Metamora, is they finally got a test. All their games, including, they got blown out by South Elgin, and almost all the other games, they were blowing other people out, including the 49-21 against a 7-2 Dunlap team. Their opener, actually, was a 48-24 beating of Bloomington Central Catholic, who's the number 6 seed, who they might play in the second round.
So stuff like that has to give that team a huge confidence boost, because you lost to South Elgin by a large amount of points. But look at everybody else we're playing and teams we will see in the playoffs. If anything, that gives them more confidence. They're like, oh, we're going to come in and run the table on these guys.
Yeah, I think it can work twofold. One, they left South Elgin with a bad taste in their mouth, and they're like, okay, that we took our medicine. We're going back, down to Central Illinois to kick some butt, and they have. But at the same time, they still know, okay, we know we're not perfect. Mm-hmm. We still have that in the back of our mind that we need to make an adjustment to assure that we get to where we want to be, which is Champaign, Illinois, Thanksgiving weekend, and trying to defend their state championship. And I mean, I like I said, I think they have a great chance to do that. I think it's probably going to come down to Metamora, Quincy, Notre Dame, semifinals. And whoever wins that game, I like over whoever comes out of that top bracket because both those teams are battle-tested. 36-30, Metamora beat Washington. And Washington, for Metamora, for those of you who don't know, wins the Mid-Illini down there every year. Every year. And so for last year, Washington won the Mid-Illini for the first time, and I couldn't even tell you how long. And so Metamora came back this year, beat Washington. That was their close game, 6-point win in Week 8, and I think they're primed for a deep run.
Yeah, well, we'll see what happens. It's about to go down in the first round, and being in that lower bracket, it just is what it is. But
yeah. I mean, it's exciting to see some of these potentially good matchups. Just like rather see them in the the quarters and the semis.
That's the only thing you hope is that you don't want your final game to be a snooze button.
Yeah.
It's just.
Exactly. But that'll wrap it up for the Metamora preview. Certainly the Redbirds looking good for a potential repeat in 4A. And next time, we'll be doing team preview number 8 as we look forward to the IHSA football playoffs here at IllinoisPrep.com.